Welcome to Hort Culture, where a group of extension professionals and plant people talk about the business, production, and joy of planting seeds and helping them grow. Join us as we explore the culture of horticulture. Well, it is July here in Kentucky, and if you're listening to this episode when it comes out, it is July for you as well, and you are likely sweating a lot. And it feels very much like you go outside for about 10 minutes and you're like, did I get in a pool? Because it feels like I've been in the pool, but my clothes are on and I'm confused.
Yeah, very swampy. Very wet early and now very hot. I don't know what the weather is going to be at the date of the airing of this episode, but today it's actually cooled down a couple of degrees, and I mean, it feels kind of nice with some rain moving through the area,
compared
I guess, at the
to
date of
what
recording.
it's been like a 2-3 shower a day type of thing lately. I don't know about you all, but it's been crazy.
No matter how far we believe that our technology has advanced us as a species, we cannot get away from the conversational universal of, oh my God, this sucks.
It's a universal truth.
You know, I mean, we still have that body sweat, hot feeling. It still makes your brain do weird things and want to give up.
I think it's actually amplified. I mean, the older I get, I'm like, when did the heat get so hot? I mean, either that or I'm spending, my father would say that I'm spending too much time in the air conditioning, and he could be right, because it's pretty jarring going from a comfortable 70 degrees out to a 96 swamp. So 96 degree swamp. It's a little tough. It's a little tough.
Do you all have any, maybe this is a good time for like tips and tricks that you may use as we're all plant people, we're all outside people, for staying cool, or maybe just keeping the sweat out of your eyes so that it's not blurry all the time, because that's what I've been dealing with. Anybody got any tips? Joe, do you have any tips? Joe is on the show today. We'll let him introduce himself shortly, but Joe first, sweat tips.
A big giant hat.
Yes.
Big giant hat. Yep. Brett has a huge hat, one of the biggest hats I've ever seen, for that big old noggin of his.
I'm glad you didn't.
The brim is also large. It's not just
just the hat,
just the part that encapsulates my head.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in big giant hats, something that will cover my neck, especially if you're bending over. And used to be that just annoyed me. You know, I'd see people wearing the big brim straw hats, and I'm like, oh, fashion over function. I'm like, no, that actually serves a very important purpose, and I've come to appreciate that. So yeah, that does help a lot.
Well, so I'm. This will shock some audience members. I'm bald, and
look at the video feed.
I also have glasses, and so what ends up happening is I have this, in the world of stormwater management, it's just this erosion zone where there's nothing to hold back the sweat from pouring down onto my glasses, and so I've had to
gain
supplement
some velocity.
With some geotextile, aka like a bandana buff kind of thing on my head. It makes a huge difference. Put that under the hat, you got a lot of soaking up capacity to prevent that erosion loss. And the other one I would say is that sometimes people just don't stand in the shade. Like they'll just sort of stand out in the sun and not seek out the shade. Some people do, some people don't. But and then when it's humid enough, it doesn't really even matter. You just sort of gonna steam or fry, so you just got to choose which one. But those are my quick tips.
If there's a shade, I'm in it. We went on a work trip here recently, and there was a tour.
I was going to say that, yeah.
There was a tour in a zoo, and there was little tiny blobs of shade around this zoo. Not a lot of shade, and it was 97 degrees that day out west. Not a lot of humidity, but a lot of heat. And on every point of shade, at first, the first hour, nobody paid attention to the shade. The second hour of standing out on the concrete in the sun, you had to fight people to get into the little tiny shaded areas where the speaker was talking. So yeah, the
Ray
shade.
And I immediately were finding them. We were like, "Where's the
No.
shade?" We're like creeping into little nooks to listen.
I was not cool. The first 5 minutes, I was looking for shade. Then after the first
It's like, I'm
hour,
too
people
pale
were.
for this.
Yes, I was not built for this. And I did not have a wide brim hat, Joe. I had nothing but regret of standing out in the sun. And it's okay if you're moving. It seems like if I'm moving out in the sun, that's different. But just standing and listening in almost 100 degrees heat, and our tour guide seemed to not be affected. I mean, he was built different or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that guy was built different.
Yeah, he was.
I don't know. He could have lapped me around that arboretum several
Yes.
times as an older gentleman. So, but anyway, so there's your tips and tricks from your local plant nerds that you all probably knew. But if you need to invest in a good hat, this is us as your educated professionals telling you do that, right? You can trust us. We're professionals, right? But we're not just talking about hats today. We're talking about giant pumpkins, and we're all really excited about it. And so we've got Joe on with us. Joe, why don't you introduce yourself? Who are you? What do you do? Why do you love pumpkins?
Yeah. So my name is Joe Kuosman, originally from Pittsburgh, but and started growing giant pumpkins back in Pittsburgh when I was younger, and then moved to Lexington several years ago, and continued my giant pumpkin passion, and have grown several large ones over the years here in great old Kentucky.
So this is not like a recent development. Your pumpkin passion is not a recent thing. And you say it started back in Pittsburgh. Was this like this is like my number one thing with giant pumpkin growers. I want to know why and how. I mean, was it Charlie Brown and the giant pumpkin? I mean, or was it something else that started you down this road of
No, he just
passion
said
for
it's
pumpkin?
Joe Kuosman. That his name is not Charlie Brown,
Oh,
Ray.
true. Joe, the other Joe. Gotcha.
No, it's an interesting story. So, growing up in Pittsburgh, my grandfather always had a big garden, and loved his garden, and I would always go up there and help him out. But also his house, I don't know if it was a thing with like the older folks, but like the seed catalog was the most precious thing, and it was everywhere. But actually, it was on top of the toilet. Get on the back.
Bathroom
Uh,
reading. Sure.
yeah,
Bathroom
yes,
reading.
so it was
Absolutely.
basically bathroom reading, and I remember over the years, and I forget, I was probably in my teens, and what do you do in the toilet? You read the literature next to the
Yeah.
toilet, and they had, amongst other things, they had, I guess it was like just the original um, Dill's giant pumpkin seeds, and when they're selling it, I was like, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna get some of those. I'm just gonna see what happens. So I ended up planting them at my house, and they were, again. This is probably 30 years ago, and they hadn't kind of continued to dial them in to make them as big as they are now. But I planted them at my house. My parents were encouraging. They said, "There, take this out of the house and do whatever you want." But I ended up growing probably 100-pound pumpkin, and
Oh, wow.
I thought it was the coolest thing ever.
Your first time out, you grew a 100-pound pumpkin.
I
So,
think it was
yeah.
about maybe like 80, but I mean
It was big. It was
it
a
was
big
big.
pumpkin.
It was big. It was bigger than any pumpkin I'd ever seen.
Yeah.
But the ironic thing is that I grew this giant, what I considered a giant pumpkin at the time. In the middle of the night, some neighborhood kids came and picked that thing up and smashed it in the middle of the road. Yeah,
No.
Oh, vendetta against you and your
I
pumpkin.
know it was very disheartening. But I mean you guys know that's the great thing about gardening is you get to give it another try every year. So
Mm-hmm.
every year if it doesn't work out, um, give it
You
another
learn
go.
something new
Yeah,
every year. Like
yeah,
there's always something that changes and it keeps it interesting no
yeah.
matter what you're growing. If you're growing the same thing over and over, it's never the same over each year.
Yeah, but I mean that's the beauty of it. And you're like, oh, I think it's almost like golf. It's like you have a good year, and you're like, man, I think I figured it out. And then next year comes around, and you're like, nothing.
You've
So
absolutely got the formula. I mean, that's pretty impressive. The first time out, which those Deal's, Atlantic Giant, I guess is what that was. Atlantic Giant, Deal's Atlantic Giant
Yep.
cross. Back then, I mean, like maximum, in the 80s, I guess would have been 400, 450 pounds for those guys.
Yeah,
And you
exactly.
grew a 100 pounder like right out of the gate. So the seed was planted then.
Green thumb. Yep, green thumb.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would be super pumped too, even though it met untimely end.
Yeah.
You were encouraged enough, I guess, to go. What the next year? Did you follow up with another?
I did, and just think about it, before we did this, I was just trying. I was reflecting on my giant pumpkin journey, and it was a different time 30 years ago. You didn't have the internet, you didn't have all these resources. Um, you tell people you're growing giant pumpkins, and they'd hear old wives' tales about injecting them with milk and like all.
Oh yeah,
There
yeah.
was no,
That's what I've heard. Yeah.
yeah. So there was none of like these guys that are really into it. I mean, it got it down to like a science,
Mhm.
and but they didn't have any of that back then. So threw it in the ground and made sure there was good soil, and that was kind of it.
I mean, I know when they first started, if you look into I was looking into the history of giant pumpkins a little bit. And, the first ones were like the mammoth crosses. And then along came the Atlantic giant in the 70s. But, even those things, the big ones were like, I don't know, 400, 450 pounds. And now today, like the world record holder is over 2,700 pounds. I
Crazy.
can't even wrap my head around that. But I mean, I know that some of that is improved genetics, but a lot of that has to be like the rise of communities around growing giant pumpkins and trading information and science, micronutrients and feeding and all of that. I have to think some of that is because now people can communicate with each other a little easier. But I realize the genetics are better now too. But
Yeah,
they were pretty good back then. I mean, that strain's still around, the Atlantic giant strain. So the seeds.
yeah, I agree. But no, I completely agree. I mean, there's a Kentucky Giant Pumpkin Growers
Oh,
Facebook
is it?
page. There's a national one, and I think not only does it allow for better communication and dissemination of information, but it also gets people excited about it, right?
Mhm.
Where you can go online, and you can see this giant pumpkin, you're like, oh my gosh. I mean, think about 2,700 pound pumpkin. It's insane.
Yeah, I think the
And it's like
record.
it's from a plant, like to think
Yeah,
about, especially, I mean, I don't know, thinking about it, if it was a tree or something, you're like, oh, okay, there's this big tree, right? No, this is like a vine that comes from a tiny seed. And it's just like mind boggling to think about the amount of like water and nutrients that plant is pumping into something that large. Like just the root system on those things must be wild.
Yeah, it is. And like I said, my biggest is I grew one for just under 800 pounds.
oh, wow.
But it was
Yeah.
interesting that I actually, one plant produced two pumpkins almost 800 pounds, and then another pumpkin over 300 pounds. So and this is for me, so one plant produced almost 2,000 pounds of pumpkin. And that's just me as an amateur kind of gardener. And we can talk some more about like how do you really,
Yeah.
how do they get to that 2,700 pounds. But even for me, it's like it's mind boggling. Like you were saying, Alexis, it's just crazy. It's just crazy.
So 27 for those sometimes are, sometimes people don't have a sense of scale, and 2,700 pounds is kind of an odd number that, it's like way more than most body weights, or it's roughly the size of a Toyota Camry. I mean, sorry, a Toyota Corolla.
Yeah.
So like a modern
A
Toyota
car.
Corolla is about
A
2,800
car.
pounds. The ones when they came out in the 70s were like 1,700 pounds. So the old introduced Corolla, add 1,000 pounds to that, and that's this pumpkin, which is just insane. And you plugged that Kentucky Giant Pumpkins group. You can tell I'm a numbers person. There's 628 members in that group as of today. So this is not some, that's Kentucky Giant Pumpkin Growers.
Yeah.
So I think it's really cool to see. I love people following unique, interesting, some would say odd. Almost everything I do is odd. So for me, that's a badge of honor, things. And so that's just so cool. A win for the internet and for social media in this case. There's some losses
It's a
involved,
good
but that's a
thing.
good thing. It's
Yes.
really
Yeah.
cool.
But I also think it's a great way to get people interested in gardening, because the genetics on those seeds now are such that the average novice can grow a 400 pound pumpkin without getting crazy. And you get a kid to basically, it's almost like, Jack and the Beanstalk type thing. You get a kid and you say, okay, let's go, create a little plot and let's put this seed in the ground and see what happens. And, 3 months later, this little kid grew a 300-pound pumpkin. I mean, that kid's going to be a lifetime gardener. It's like, what else can I grow?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean,
And at those types of weights, I mean, you can like literally see it change day to day,
Oh, yeah.
like when it's putting on that much in a relatively short amount of time
Yeah,
for
so those
a
big
crop.
ones, I mean, really, most of the, if you're growing them for the state fair, you got to start them really early. You got to do like really greenhouses because most of the pumpkins you can plant them, end of May, beginning of June, which is when if you don't do anything special, that's when the soil is starting to warm up. They're maturing in September, which is after the Kentucky State Fair. Um, but really, the pumpkins like mine at home that I have now, the pumpkins are just getting to the point where they're going to be fertilized. So basically, you got like a 60-day window where this thing's growing. So from zero to even if it's 700 pounds, I mean sometimes they're putting on 30, 40 pounds a day.
Yeah.
It's mind boggling. Like it's a small it's a small child.
It's a plant, like it's not. I feel like people don't. So like when you think about something moving that quickly, you're thinking animals, right?
Yeah.
Human animals, like not a plant putting on weight.
I mean,
Just a mind-boggling thought.
kudzu can eat its heart out. It has nothing on the giant pumpkins. Really doesn't. As far as mass, I mean, it's pretty incredible. You said I know there's lots of special techniques and things that you do to make that happen, to get the really, really big ones like 1,000-pounders and on up. Even a 400-pound pumpkin, super impressive to me.
Yeah.
But I guess we could start at the beginning. Like, if you're interested in, I mean, you listen to this podcast or, you want to be that guy that grows the county fair winner in your county. How do you get started? I mean, like, where would you, I know you've already talked about the Kentucky Giant Pumpkin group that Brett is pumped about, but like if you're looking for seeds, it all kind of starts with the seeds. Is that a good place to start?
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to grow a giant pumpkin if you don't have good seed. I always think it's interesting that when you buy one of these giant pumpkin seeds, it's almost like buying a pedigree dog.
Yeah.
Where you know the lineage of the seed, and you can find these seeds online. You just go online and say type in giant pumpkin seeds, purchase or whatever. And there's several reputable places. I've used a couple different ones. But yeah, you go in there and you can get seeds that came from 2,500-pound pumpkin, which is they'll go for anywhere from $25 to $50 a seed. You can get some that come over from over 1,000-pound pumpkin, and those are normally more reasonable, around like $5 to $10 a seed. But it all starts with the pumpkin seed, and most of the places that you buy them from, a lot of times they'll send kind of informational sheets to go along with those pumpkins. So again, I think the biggest thing with giant pumpkins is not to be intimidated that you have to do all this crazy stuff. At the end of the day, it's like gardening in general, right? You get a plot of land, make sure the soil is good. You stick a seed in the ground, and you kind of see what happens. So you can go anywhere from just that simple, and kind of seeing what happens, to going over the top where you're shading them, you're putting heaters in the soil. I mean, it's one of these things that you can take it as far as you want. And really, the beautiful thing now is there's just so many resources online that you can get them at different materials that you need, and then the instruction as well. But at the end of the day, I still have years where you got this great plant and there's no pumpkins. Some years the whole vine dies. Some years you don't do anything and you got these giant pumpkins. So it's still kind of a hit or miss kind of thing. But like I said, anybody that wants to get into it, I just say don't be intimidated by it. Just like growing anything else, create a plot of land, put the seed in the ground, and then kind of see what happens.
It's a great
So
thing
with the
about
right
gardening. Yeah.
Yeah, with the right genetics, you're saying like you can still be like have the biggest pumpkin that you've probably ever seen with just good genetics and like, basic garden skills. Well, and that's fun. I mean, showing a kid a 100-pound pumpkin, sign me up.
Yeah.
What do you do with them afterwards? That's what I really want to know.
That's a great question. And that's the joy of it. So I think you find that most people that grow giant pumpkins, they do it because they want to see the expression of people on their face when they see this giant pumpkin. So I'm fortunate enough, I own my own business, West Sixth Brewing. I grow the giant pumpkins, and then I take them to our different locations throughout the state. Some locations will have people come and carve them,
Mm.
but if nothing else, they're out there. And like majority of the people, they walk up to it and they think it's fake. And then I go out there. I said, "No, you can stand on it, sit on it." I said, "I grew that thing." He said, where'd you grow that thing? I said, "I just grew it over in Jessamine County." But like the look on their faces, and that's what it's all about. Is especially little kids, but even adults. You see a pumpkin that big, it just brings a smile to your face. It just can't not, right? Because it's just such an anomaly.
After all these years, you're going to see that look on this guy's face. I'm going to walk up to that thing and ask lots of questions with a smile on my
Yeah,
face every single time.
yeah,
The ones that are carved that are like big faces on these giant pumpkins and stuff, those are wild. Some of the coolest things
yeah. And we've been
I've seen.
fortunate. We've had some amazing carvers come over the years, and what they can create. Because the interesting thing with their giant pumpkins is that they measure how big a giant pumpkin is based on weight, right?
Uh-huh.
There's two factors that impact that weight. It's not just the overall kind of volume of the pumpkin. It's also how dense the basic rind is. So you get a big giant pumpkin. I mean, that rind's anywhere from 6 inches, sometimes 12 inches thick.
Wow.
So these pumpkin carvers that come in there, it's not like majority of the time they're not busting through, and having a light source inside. They're creating this three-dimensional kind of image. It's almost like a
Mhm.
sculpture. Which
Yeah, the dimensions because they don't go as deep in the rind
yeah,
layers.
they don't even go all the way through. So what they can create, and again, I have no artistic ability whatsoever. So to see these guys be able to do that, and every pumpkin has a different shape. So
Mhm.
they take the shape of that pumpkin and incorporate what their design is going to be, and
It
it's
seems like I see those featured more and more I mean, I love fall. I mean, everyone knows. I mean, October is my jam, but I see those more and more, and I always look for them in fall displays. Like last time I was at Kings Island, they had some kind of fall event. They had several of those big pumpkins from the region, and I think Louisville has that the pumpkin walking tour. Like
yeah,
I
Mhm.
forget what it's called, but I always see big pumpkins there, and I love seeing those things showcased.
yeah,
And you're right, it is art. To call it pumpkin carving doesn't do it justice because it is just art when you look at those things, especially if they do have a backlight component to that and it shines through. It's just absolutely amazing.
yeah. I
It is
agree.
something else. It is something else. So you to grow these things, I'm assuming that these things are the giant pumpkins. They take a long growing season. What 130, 160 days or something?
Yeah, I
Or
don't
what
know
are
what
you
that
shooting
date
for?
is, but like I said, normally I've tried different things over the years. A lot of people say you got to get them in really early to get the really giant ones. So you know, certain periods of my life, depending on how much free time I had, pre-kids, pre-wife, and stuff.
Yeah.
I was
What
finding
free time? What?
I was trying to find things to occupy my time. I'd build little greenhouses, and I always start them inside. Probably 2-3 weeks before I'm going to put them into the ground. But I built a greenhouse and tried to warm up the soil and got them in the ground, and probably early May, which in general the soil is just still too cold if general planting. But I've kind of moved away towards tailoring how much time and effort I spend on the pumpkins based on how much time and effort I can put on the pumpkins. And
Mhm.
my kid's not coming up to me and say, you spend more time on those pumpkins than you do us. Uh,
Yeah, it's like you need to come to the pumpkin patch,
Knowing your
children.
kids,
Yes.
they definitely said that to you.
I was actually out there watering them yesterday, and they haven't yet, Alexis. But they haven't. But I was actually out there watering them yesterday, and it was hot, and I had my wide brim hat on, and I thought I better get back inside before my kids do say that to me. But like I said, my basic structures now, I make sure I get good seeds. I get new seeds from these suppliers every year. Um, some years I spent more than others. I actually got some really good seeds this year, so I'm interested to see what happens. But I start the seeds inside, um, you know, middle of May, with the idea that I'm going to get them in towards the end of May, first week of June. Um, that way, they should be ready to go kind of mid September, so that I can take them to the different locations we have
Mhm.
throughout the state. Um, but put them in the ground, and I do put a wind barrier up around them. So whenever they first go, I think these things, I mean, they grow fast, right? And
Yeah.
the leaves are so big that they're almost like kites. So I do put like a wind barrier up around them,
Hmm.
at least until the vines are long enough to start kind of stabilizing. After that point, I kind of pull them off, just make sure they got a lot of water. I do fertilize them a lot. Fish
Mhm.
emulsion is my preferred one, like a foliar fish
Hmm.
emulsion. It's just so low, and because really I'd like to fertilize them every day. Um,
Hmm.
and the contents of that are low enough where I'm not going to burn it. I'm not going
Yeah, it doesn't burn them up. Do you foliar feed that? Yeah, the specific formulation
to.
on the
I do.
emulsion?
Basically,
Yeah.
I'll just put fish emulsion in kind of a spray bottle, and hook it up to my hose, and make sure that they stay well hydrated, uh, and then just kind of keep an eye on them. And again, you go online. There's tons of resources about certain shapes that you should kind of create from the vine, where you want the pumpkin to set in order to get the largest pumpkins. If you
Hmm.
really want to go crazy, there's different recommendations on the type of fertilization you should do, throughout
Yeah.
the entire growing period. I don't. It's too much for me at this point in my life. But again, you can find all those resources online. But like I said, in general, you put the pumpkin in beginning of June, right around now, beginning mid July is when you're going to start seeing your first female pumpkins that will, you see the female blossoms. You can either hand fertilize them or leave it up to nature to do that for you, and then just keep an eye on it. And a lot of fertilization, and there's different ways of handling the pest control.
Hmm.
Vine borers are the bane of every pumpkin grower's existence. And those little buggers,
Facts.
they are as nasty as they can be. You can go either organic or conventional as far as controlling those, but you do have to control them, otherwise they'll take out your plant pretty quickly. I've done both, and they both work. You just go organic. You're just have to spend a little more time and apply some of those things more frequently. And then you just kind of keep an eye on it. And once August hits, that's when the things they just start exploding. And like you were saying, Alexis, literally you can go out there every day, and the thing's getting bigger and bigger.
I think I just want to grow it like for that, just to like see it in action,
Yeah,
just
I really want to
like,
get one of those. People always say you've never gotten one of those time lapse cameras, and I think I might do it this year.
Mhm.
I think it would just be, it adds a whole other dimension to say this giant thing, and it goes from zero to that size, and anywhere from 40 to 60, 45 to 60 days. It's just mind boggling.
I'd love to have like a scale underneath so you could see that time lapse, the scale, just the weight that they gain.
Yeah,
I mean, in addition to the size, because I mean, one's related to the other, but yeah, that'd be so cool.
yeah. People do it right. Like I said, if
Oh,
you
do
go
they?
online,
But like
man.
put scales under them,
Oh yeah,
like from the beginning? Wow. I wondered about that because I know at the end of the season, there's all kind of lifting techniques, but they get them up and weigh them. But some people, I guess it makes sense. They want to know.
yeah.
They want to
Mhm.
know.
Because a lot of people, they do as well, and I try to do this as well, is um, if you're sitting, if the pumpkin's just sitting directly on the ground, depending on if it gets super wet, the likelihood of it rotting does increase. So I do this majority of the time, especially if I have a big one that I'm trying to nurture. You'll put something underneath there. A lot of people just put sand. It's something that basically makes sure that the pumpkin's not sitting on permanently wet ground.
Yeah.
So if people do that, they have these permeable kind of things that they put
They put them
on.
on pallets a lot of the time too, right? Like just start them on the pallet so they can get forklifts under them.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you can do
Yeah.
that, or something else. But people will put scales in there. But it's also interesting. A lot of these places that you buy the seeds from, you can buy everything else that goes along with growing
Oh,
them
nice.
as well.
All the support accessories or whatever. Yeah.
Yes, and they've got proprietary fertilizer blends and
Mhm.
anything else you want. It's a whole industry.
The
But
fertility.
can you really put a price on the dream of a giant pumpkin?
No,
You know?
it is truly priceless. My previous goal was I wanted to break 500 pounds. and I broke 500 pounds. But if I can break 1,000 pounds, I'll be a happy
Man, your goals jump. That's pretty. That's some
yeah,
scaling.
yeah.
You're
Got it.
Well,
progressing.
I have a question that it's not a. I don't think it's a silly question, but it kind of is a funny question. What is the spacing on a giant pumpkin? In other words, like when this thing is at full tilt, when these vines are at full tilt, all
Mm.
feeding into this 30 to 40 pound gain per day, how much space is that thing taking up?
Yeah. So in general, you want about 1,000 square feet per plant,
Wow. Okay.
which is a lot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I had some people over last year, and they saw, just all these green leaves and everything, and I said, "That's one plant." And they're like, "Really?" Yeah, I said, "That's one." You
Stay
think,
away from it.
Which is like that's why like if it does go down from borer or mildew or something, God, that's so like
it's a lot. Yeah,
crushing of
That's
your
so
soul.
much.
yeah, yeah. But
Are
even
you
even then,
growing more than
you're
one?
cleaning up all those vines. I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Wow. Um, on those, do you grow more than one vine at a time, just to, so you don't have all your eggs in one basket?
You better believe it.
Yeah, I wondered. I
Yeah,
mean, you got some square footage out there. I guess if you have 4 vines, that's at least
yeah.
4,000 square feet.
I
That's
try to
amazing.
have 3 plants that are growing throughout the year. So normally, what I'll do is I'll start 6 or 7, maybe 8 seeds, and if I start 8 seeds, 6 of them will germinate. I had really good luck this year. They all germinated. But I'll create my little mounds. I'll normally put 2 plants in each mound, and
Hmm.
then inevitably one of them doesn't take or whatever, and then I'll try to cull those down to 1 plant per mound. But so this year I have 3 plants, and that's kind of what I've done in the past.
But
Now,
four plants would be roughly a quarter acre. If if it's 1,000 square feet, that's 4,000 and over 40 whatever 43,000.
It's a
So
lot.
yeah, I mean that's like those imagining the scale. It's always so hard because sometimes in pictures or people talk about it, it's just so cool to put it in those kinds of terms. And so what's the is where the area that you're growing, is this like, I assume it's not a traditional, well that would take up my entire traditional suburban lot. What's the kind of area around where you're growing? Is it like a more of a, I don't know where you live. Is it more like a farm area, or is it like
It is. So
what's the area?
we have 5 acres, so it's a field where people used to have horses. And I've tried different areas on my property. Um, Challenge is you have to have access to water because you need to water
Hmm.
them a lot. Um, so going through different things, and they don't really like super wet areas, especially kind of earlier on in the summer or in the springtime. Um, but I basically have it in a big middle of a big giant field. They do like sun, as much sun as you can possibly get them, which is interesting. So a lot of the giant pumpkins are actually grown in more northern climates, just
Hmm.
because the amount of sun during that growing season. So they grow giant pumpkins. A lot of them are up in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Alaska grows a lot of giant pumpkins. Canada, they
oh
grow a
wow.
lot of giant pumpkins. So that they love the sun. Um, so the more
Ray
sun.
and I were Ray and I were just in Montana, and like the first day I got there, it was like 10 o'clock at night, and it was still light outside. And I went, "Oh, okay, whatever." And then the sun came up at 4:45, and I was like, "What is happening?"
Going crazy.
We should have looked for
I
the
d-
pumpkins. Very dry out there.
Yeah, but one of the
I
other things
mean,
that people do is that Kentucky is kind of tough because it just gets so hot, right?
Mhm.
And even when I was out there watering my pumpkins yesterday, but whenever I got home, um, a lot of the leaves were starting to wilt a little bit because even though I'm out there,
Mhm.
watering them every day, every other day, it just hasn't rained in here in so long. Um,
Mhm.
they they don't they do get impacted by extreme heat and extreme sun. But one of the things again, though, is if you want to kind of take it further, people will actually shade the
mhm.
pumpkins.
Yeah.
Um, so they'll put umbrellas, or they'll create just a little structure where they can put some of that garden netting over it. But the idea behind that is if that pumpkin is just getting hammered day in and day out by the sun, it's going to lose water to evaporation. And if you're really looking at adding a lot of weight, which is basically water at the end of the day, you want to minimize that amount of evaporation.
The grower that I worked with quite a bit, he always used shade, and finally I was like, well, and he said, well, there's a lot of reasons why he used shade, but he was always afraid that because of our summers in Kentucky, that the rind would get hard and get expansion cracks,
Yeah.
and so he kept that rind soft. But there was always shade over there, burlap shade, and sometimes he would use like a white bed sheet type material, remay, but usually like a burlap material. But yeah, I knew then that it was serious business. I went out, I saw the wind block when it was young, and then I come back out and he's removed that structure later in the season. And then he's put up this whole little mini hoop house over the pumpkins. And,
Yeah.
before I went out, there was 8 or 10 pumpkins or 6 or 7 on a vine. And then there were 3, and then there was 1 pumpkin. So is that a thing too? The
It, it,
thinning and all of that stuff?
it is. And again, it's this idea of how far you really want to take it.
Yeah.
General just kind of logic is you got this plant. It's got a finite amount of energy that it can, direct towards whatever it's growing. If you really want to get a big one, ideally that the you want the pumpkin to grow on the main vine. So you think about a pumpkin plant. It's got its main vine, and then it's got its tertiary vines and all that. The biggest pumpkins ideally will grow off of that main vine. And that main vine, the thickest vine, is providing the most amount of nutrients. But if you want to grow, theoretically the biggest pumpkin you can, you want to direct all that effort to one single pumpkin. I don't normally
That would
do
be
that.
scary.
Yeah, I don't normally do that.
Yeah.
Just because it's more work, and if that one pumpkin doesn't make it, and it happens, then that vine.
Or if the neighborhood kids come out, I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So
Let's hope not.
I'd rather have a bunch of big ones than the state record. But you were talking like the whole trying to minimize cracks for those people that are really trying to get into the competitive. That is one of the things that removes a pumpkin from the ability to enter competition is if there are cracks. So that's kind of the fear for every true competitive giant pumpkin grower is you're going to grow this giant pumpkin and then it cracks right at the end.
Oh man.
Yeah. So
I mean, but it sounds like you're
so
you're into the culture. Yeah, you're into the culture of it though. I mean, you're not specifically growing for a state level competition. It sounds like that do you have like a local circuit that you like to kind of go and display your large pumpkins, or like places where you display those?
No, just at the brewery locations. Kind of what
Gotcha.
Maybe later on in life, once I retire and my kids are gone, maybe then I'll get a little crazier and start.
I think there's already plans for that.
Joe and the Giant Pumpkin.
Yeah,
Roald Dahl.
He's like that 2,700 pound record is not going to stand. It sounds like you have plans.
Yeah, but I think any giant pumpkin grower, you have to be kind of by nature a little kind of quirky.
We drive on that.
I was going to ask about that. Yeah, I was going to ask about the psychology of what makes someone do this. And I have, again, this is coming from, I have things like that in my life where I'm like, no sane person would do this, or no, you try to explain it. But do you see, is there something, you mentioned the kind of growing up and seeing, family gardens and being into gardening and liking to grow stuff. And that makes sense. But what do you attribute the gravity of the large pumpkin, so to speak, for you? What do you attribute that to? Do you gravitate toward large record sizes of anything, like the biggest ball of string, or is it a competitiveness thing, or do you enjoy spectacle, or do you have any thoughts about why it is that it might have reeled you in?
I don't know. I've never psychoanalyzed myself to delve into my motivation. But I think at the end of the day, to me, it's all about kind of that wow factor for people being like, "You're crazy," but man, that's a big pumpkin. That's pretty cool.
Thank you. Yes,
but it's interesting. At the brewery, we'll do a lot of we just do classes on anything, right? We partnered with the extension, different agencies around here, and done anything from gardening classes to beekeeping to whatever. But obviously, I'm passionate about giant pumpkins. So I said, let's do a giant pumpkin class. And I'm like, man, there's gonna be so many people interested in this, and I'm gonna give away free seeds and everything. Put the class on, nobody showed up.
That sounds like the story of our life. Doesn't mean it's not a good idea, but for whatever reason, nobody showed up that day.
But I'm like, you know what? End of the day, maybe general public isn't as passionate about giant pumpkins as I am. But for those few people out there, I think it's a pretty cool thing.
Once again, I think it comes off at a time of the year where, at least here in Kentucky, during that time of year, such a great, fall weather, usually, but people start to gather. It seems like, the summer, everybody's going in different directions, but there's something about that time of year where you typically start to see giant pumpkins that people are just gathering. I don't know if you see that there at West Sixth Farm, which we didn't say it, but I guess you're the co-founder of West Sixth Brewery there in Lexington, Joe. And what was that, 2012
Yeah, it's been
or so?
13 years. So yeah, 2020,
Yeah.
2012.
And
My first legal beer. West Sixth Brewing.
I like
wow. And you remember that. So yeah, it's a great place. And you guys have also West Sixth Farm that I know you guys do all sorts of cool events out there. Lots of things going on out there, both pumpkin related maybe, and then there's lots of other stuff that you guys have going on out there, don't you?
We do
just all the time.
We do. So we try to do something every year. So we do done big giant. Last year we started at big giant sunflower field. We did kind of start growing more pumpkins out there. So we grow little mini ones that we do some events where kids can come and paint those.
Oh wow!
We've tried to grow giant pumpkins out there several years. But they need a lot of time and attention and watering, and we haven't been real successful at growing them. But we're giving it another go this year, so hopefully we'll have a 500 plus pound pumpkin out there this year as well.
Yeah, you mentioned that takes a lot of care. I know, and a local water source, but it's amazing at the amount of time that goes into this. I know the growers that I've worked with, a couple over the years, they were out there every day. I mean, just looking over things, and which makes sense. We're in zone 6A. We have every insect and every disease you could possibly have. If it's not a cucumber beetle, it's mildew or something else. It seems like so.
Yeah,
I mean, it has a labor of love.
Yeah, and pumpkins are very susceptible to powdery mildew. So normally,
every year,
dog days of summer, especially around like August, you do have to be aware of that. Normally, I just use copper sulfate, and that seems to kind of keep it at bay. But especially towards you get into August, everything is just worn out. Whether it's your tomato plants or whatever, that's when all those diseases really start to hit.
That's what's just so fascinating.
We are also worn out. So.
Yeah. Your energy level may be going in one direction, and the size of your pumpkin is going in the other direction. So yeah, that's a tough curve to deal with there. Yeah, I know.
So just like be mentally prepared. Like you were saying, what am I willing to do with the pumpkins this year? What do I have time for?
Exactly. But I think if you go into that mindset that you're going to do what you can, and with minimal, no, I wouldn't say minimal effort, but not going over the top. If you watch all these videos, people are going.
You don't have to like sleep in the pumpkin patch. Is what you're saying.
Exactly. You don't have to play classical music. You don't have to hug it every day. It's kind of
if you want to, that's fine. We're just saying like you don't have to.
That's right.
Well, I love that approach, is that it is what you want it to be. I mean, first of all, if you get the right seeds, the right genetics, and you just have a typical garden, you're probably going to get a bigger than average pumpkin. But if you want to put a lot more effort into it, you can get a bigger pumpkin. Or if you just kind of want to be chill about it, you can just get a big pumpkin.
Yeah, exactly. And it might just be the stepping stone towards growing other giant stuff. So, I mean, there's giant watermelon pumpkins.
Brett's shaking his head, yeah.
There are giant cantaloupe competitions.
No, I don't know why that never entered my mind that there would be a giant cantaloupe competition.
And, it was actually interesting that the seed company, I forget which one I got it from this year, but they sent me some other seeds along with the giant pumpkin seeds, and some of those were for giant tomatoes, and they had a competition for who could grow the seeds that came with this came from a 8-pound tomato.
Whoa.
8 pounds.
I wonder how it tasted.
I don't.
Like, are we sacrificing taste?
Large. It tasted large. Alexis, and that was all that mattered.
Sorry. Yeah.
We have that at the state fair. I mean, every year I think, and Alexis has judged that
Mhm.
before. But there is a category for like largest tomato, and sometimes you have to really specify the largest marketable type tomato. Like it can't come in and just in
Mhm.
mush. It has to come in some sort of.
And yet they do.
Yes, they do. But I mean, that's pretty exciting. We've gotten some big tomatoes, not as
Not
big
8
as 8 pounds,
pounds.
not 8 pounds.
Not even
8 pounds
close.
is crazy.
I don't
Yeah,
even like I,
Oof.
Yeah. I think it's probably similar to pumpkins. People always ask me, like, can you eat this pumpkin? Like, what do you do? I mean, these things are just grown for size. They're not,
yeah.
yeah.
you're not going to turn an 800-pound pumpkin into, 500 pumpkin pies. They're just not made for that.
What
No,
about 500 beers?
maybe.
Are they good for
Yeah.
beers?
Yeah. Make a lot of pumpkin beer. I think
Yeah.
it's probably the same thing.
You could definitely turn it into like 200 pounds of compost once all the water's gone
Yes.
and everything else.
Exactly.
And it turns into like 4 ounces of compost once the water is extracted out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it collapses down. You say it sounds like you have big plans for the future. I mean, what was your goal? You said you started out at as all those years ago in Pennsylvania, 100 pounds. And what's your future goal? Did you say you're hoping to crack the 1,000 pound mark?
I am. So, back, starting, it was, 100-pound pumpkin I thought was, the greatest thing ever. And then, after I started growing them here in Kentucky, I wanted to break the 500-pound barrier. I did that a couple of years ago. I haven't been able to replicate it. But my goal now is if I could break 1,000 pounds, which would be, I think, would be pretty cool.
So it sounds like there'll be at least as of right now, a giant pumpkin or pumpkins out at West Sixth Farm then. So they're back.
I hope so.
Fingers
No
crossed.
pressure, Ray. We just said, and everybody's gonna show up and be like, "Where are the giant pumpkins?"
It's like, wait a minute.
Joe's like,
Yeah.
"Oh no, oh no,
Ray's put a line in the sand that says you got to
I
do it.
mean,
I better go spray." Oh
I'm
no.
coming out there one way or another, and I'm going to be creeping around. They're like, "Why is this guy out in the middle of our sunflower field? What is he doing?" And I'm out looking for the
Joe, some
secret.
guy
uh,
asked about pumpkins.
Listen, Charlie Brown said there was a giant pumpkin out here, and he's coming on Halloween night, and I am looking for it. Yeah,
I think it's a good
I
idea,
just
Ray. I think we might have to incorporate the whole Charlie Brown theme into our giant
hey,
pumpkin stuff.
I watch it every year, and I'm still waiting on it myself. Not that I stay up after midnight waiting on the giant pumpkin every year, but maybe I do.
I think
I'm
that's
just saying I love a good spectacle, and I
yeah.
love this whole entire conversation. I'm
It
here
is,
for the giant tomatoes, cantaloupes, pumpkins. I'm here for all of it.
but you're exactly
I
right.
googled it. It's
It's a
huge.
spectacle. It's a
This
spectacle.
tomato.
Well, it sounds like there's this neat culture around it too. I know Indiana. It seems like I've seen a lot of information for. There's an Indiana group and maybe a Michigan
Well,
group.
I'm
So
sure
it's not just Kentucky. It's all over the place, isn't it?
it is. It is, and I think it's just getting bigger and bigger as the resources are more and more available, and people get into it. It's fun.
Yeah, very cool stuff. Very cool.
Did Joe just talk me into growing a giant pumpkin
I
next
really
year?
think he did. I think he
I,
did.
Give it a try. Put it next to all your
I,
flowers out there.
Yeah.
yeah, I know, but then people will be like, "Oh my God, do you have a pumpkin patch? Can we come out and visit?" And I'll be like, "No, I have
I
one
don't know.
pumpkin. I have
I don't know,
literally one."
Alexis. I'm not sure that you can do it.
Oh no, I don't
Okay,
think
but all
so
right, all
either.
right.
No.
I have a legitimate question. Before we finish up, this is a production question. How do you control weeds? Because do they eventually shade out? I'm just imagining the grass just growing up in
It's
between.
bothering you,
I
isn't
mean,
it? It's
yeah, it
bothering you.
is.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it's an excellent question, and I'm battling it now. Really, what the best results that I've had, I've tried, herbicides where I'll spray it and kill everything. Best results I've had is I get a big giant tarp,
Mm.
put it out there early spring, because really I'm not planting these until you know late late May, early June. I'll put that tarp out wherever I want to plant it, weigh it down, and just hope it kills just about everything. Um, and what I've incorporated this year actually is I get a ton of leaves in the fall, and I got
Uh-huh.
one of those leaf chopper things that I hook up to my mower. We
Uh-huh.
have this huge mound of leaves. So basically, once I pull that tarp up, I'll use those leaf clippings as basically just mulch and
Uh-huh.
try to keep them down. But I mean, any gardener, you know,
Yeah.
the grass and weeds is it's a constant battle. And then
Alexis, it's
hand
not going to
weeding.
detract from your flowers, okay?
I don't know. It sounds like that might take over my flowers. Like they might just like I can just imagine those vines just like being like, "Oh, what flowers?" and just like
It
toppling
does, but
them.
ideally, once the plant gets so big, and those leaves eventually do, shade out a lot of the ground, so you don't have as much growth, at least where that plant is. But it is definitely a battle year long, along with any other garden to keep those weeds.
Yeah. But I didn't even think about the fact of like, yeah, that tarp and then the mulch. So if you can just like give it some time to get those leaves out, then a lot of that, grass growing up between your leaves is probably diminished at least a little bit. So,
Yeah,
okay.
and ideally,
Well, and I asked that.
I put all those leaves out, and ideally, I'm improving the soil,
Right.
year over year as those leaves get
Yeah.
in the soil as well.
Man, leaf mulch is just some of the best stuff,
It is. But the
I
one thing I would
think.
say is I've tried to not rotate my pumpkins, and I've definitely seen the implications of not rotating. So I definitely
Oh.
encourage do not keep the same plot year in and year
Mm.
out.
I would imagine they're really like pulling stuff from the soil too. So, nutrient wise, when you talk about 1,000-pound pumpkin,
Yeah,
having to put the
exactly.
nutrients in there. So, even if you're feeding them, they're going to pull that stuff out. So
That is
it's good, maybe good for an area that you've accidentally over fertilized in the past.
I would agree with that as well. Yeah,
Add that to your rotation.
I agree.
Super cool. Well, any last thoughts about giant pumpkins from you all before we let the pumpkin man go?
Other than they're super cool.
Yeah. I'll keep
No.
you guys.
I
I'll
mean,
keep you guys
obvious.
updated on the growth. And like I said, if I can set up one of those little time lapse things, I think I'll send it to you guys as well.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh,
that'd
that
be
would be
awesome.
awesome.
Oh man,
Yeah.
that would be cool.
I would also love to get some photos, if you're cool with that, to share with people on our Instagram, which you all can follow at Hort Culture Podcast, of any of your giant pumpkins you've grown previously. So if you're willing to share those with us,
Yeah,
that would be great.
of course. I'll pull some up from the archives and share those. Those
We want
beautiful.
to show them off. Yeah.
You better believe it.
Awesome. Well, if you all have any questions about giant pumpkins, we do have a new email address. So we'll have that in the show notes, but it's hortculturepodcast@gmail.com. And that is something that will come to all of us. So if you've used our email in the past, understandable. We've got this new one, a little bit easier for us to use and get a hold of and get it all figured out. So find us there, find us on Instagram, shoot us your questions. We'll post some photos of these giant pumpkins. Look up world's largest tomato. There's a very happy guy holding it, and it just brings me joy to see people with their large produce. So just, if you need an uplifter for the day, just look up world's giant whatever produce you want, and I bet there's happy people in the photo. So we thank you guys for being here with us today, and we hope that you will join us next time. See ya.